I'm 27 years old. I'm happily married to my husband, Adarna. I have two fur babies with him. I am a daughter of four. I have three older sisters. I grew up in the island of Oahu. My ethnicity is majority is Hispanic, Asian, white, but I'm very mixed blooded with that different type of category. And that's very common here in the islands because it was a very melted pot back in plantation days. And that actually helped me create the system of what I'm influenced by. Other than my own culture, I am very influenced by Hawaiian culture. I grew up dancing hula and doing outrigger canoe paddling. What makes my healing approach unique is that I love to incorporate the ocean, and that's really based off of me paddling and being around the ocean my whole entire life. Also, another backstory is just having a past life as a shark. So there's something in me that I know in my heart, the ocean has this magical ability to just cleanse you and recharge you. And I want to share that with other people. And it's also ties into like my Hawaiian culture beliefs of just we can heal ourselves with even the aulapa'au, like the natural resources that the island has to offer. And it's just really planting those seeds and try to perpetuate Hawaiian culture the best way that I can. And I feel like that's also a way that I can give back to my community, is just bringing that awareness of what island that I sit on and what beautiful blessings that they can offer outside. So I do offer outside group healings where we go to Holomua Botanical Garden and we just sit there and really take in the beauty of the Mauka, of the mountains, and listen to what nature has to bring us. And when I bring people to the ocean, then it's more of that cleansing property, the ability to let go, that giving them a tool that they could do this on their own, just driving to the beach and really just giving it back to the ocean, giving it back to Mother Earth to replenish, and just really cultivating that Hawaiian people were doing this practice a long time ago, whether they called it kapukai or au kai, and really just tapping into source that way. Before I found Reiki, I was in the food and beverage industry. I worked, my first job after high school was at Bravo Restaurant. It's a more local restaurant. It's not well known like Olive Garden, but that's the closest we've had at the moment to Olive Garden. And then I ventured off into airline catering. I was administration there, did food, kind of a food and beverage in a different setting. And then after that, right before COVID hit, I was working at Four Seasons for one of their local restaurants.
So take us back to the time that you first heard about Reiki and you first had a session, and what made you want to try it? What was happening in your life at the time, and what was your experience with it?
So I was referred by one of my older sisters, Ashley. She was actually one of your clients way before I even considered Reiki. And she witnessed me going through a very toxic and abusive relationship. And she told me to get help because I was so resistant to listening to all of my sisters, because it was that dynamic in my head of like, oh, I know that they mean well, but they're just telling me what I need to do. And it was just so hard for me to take the advice. And I was very rebellious and was just like, nah, I'm going to just learn the hard way. And that's exactly what I did. But she definitely planted that seed in my brain while I was going through that abusive relationship to go seek help. And it was just in the back of my head once I finally left and built that courage to go and try whatever was working for her. And it wasn't just that. I was holding a lot in from that relationship, and what surfaced many more relationships before that. I'm a survivor of sexual assault. I was molested by one of my high school boyfriends, and I kept that secret within me for so many years and didn't know how to communicate that out of fear of being judged or not my story being told and believed.
Right.
That was definitely a lot of fear of just not being seen.
Yeah.
And, the relationship that topped it off before I went to Reiki, he was more of a physical, meaning like he would hit me. He was verbal. So it really lowered my self-esteem.
Yeah.
And I just was tired of being abused in so many levels by men. And I finally built the courage to book a session with you. And it was definitely life changing, especially like the thoughts that were running through my head was, it was like, how is this going to work? And what's the difference between me going to see a therapist
Right.
and, and, it really, I was served a beautiful plate of humility when I actually tried it, because it was just something that was like words couldn't explain all the things that I felt and saw, and really it was like next level to therapy. Like there was, just talking about it wasn't enough. That's what I learned from just
Yeah.
one session, and really releasing something and then gaining more
Yeah.
positive energy afterwards made me confirm in my heart and my head like this was for me. Like traditional therapy wouldn't have gave me that same satisfaction that I got out of just one session with you.
Yeah, so I get that imagery when you're talking about like having a safe place to release something, because a lot of times in our life we don't even have someone, like you said, you were getting advice from your sisters, but to truly just talk through your stuff without judgment and knowing that whatever came up, the person on the other end could handle it and hold that space for you, and just kind of like let it rip, like let it all come out, let it come to the surface, like let it go, and then let that Reiki help to release anything else. And then, like you said, put in like more positive energy, more love, more lightness, all in like 2 hours, and I remember that session. Actually remember I don't remember many of my sessions, but I remember that session. I remember your first session. And I think that I'm curious from that point to the point where you decided, I really want to go learn this stuff now. And like, I want to continue working on myself and hopefully pay it forward and help someone else, you know, what brought you to that conclusion that you're like, okay, I think I want to go learn more about this now?
Honestly, just tapping into my spirituality was the start of it. Like actually believing in the process of Reiki opened the doors of my intuition. I got stopped by multiple mediums that were like, "You have intuition," and I was just like, "Yeah, everybody got intuition," but it wasn't until I combined it Reiki and what they truly meant that it changed my perspective of like, okay, I see it now. I see it from a different perspective, that this beautiful gift of sometimes just knowing what to say or how to say it to my friends when they're asking advice. And mind you, I was like the mother of the group all the time. I was like this goody two shoes that was like, oh, you need help? I'm there for you. And I had no clue at the time where all of that information was coming from, because half of those things that they were experiencing, I didn't go through. So it was really that knowing of later on what came to be was that was my guides. That was just allowing them to give that person the best advice. It wasn't even truly me. It was just coming from the heart. And that's what Reiki is just unconditional love that we're sending these people and just really empathizing with them.
Yeah.
But it was those mediums that kind of like were planting more seeds in my brain, from my sister like saying to get it, and then these random people saying like, oh no, you have a gift to heal, like you should tap into that. And at the time I was still going through my healing process and journey, and like
Right.
I didn't feel like I'm not fixed, how can I fix another person? And it wasn't until you explaining like you didn't need to be a 100% fix, it's just a matter of finding that beautiful balance of taking these people on the same journey that you've been on and showing them the steps of and suggesting what helped you to get through those hard times.
Yeah. Yeah. And we all have like, life isn't, you don't ever get to a point unless you die and then it's perfect, right? Only at that point when we transition out of the body is it perfect. So there's always going to be lessons. There's always going to be trials and tribulations coming up. We're always going to get triggered at some point over something, but we hope that the turnaround time is quicker, right? The way that we recover or the way that we see the trigger coming and sidestep it, like, I can see that one coming. I could see how that comment would piss me off, but I'm going to accept it and let it like feel upset, let it go through my body in a more positive way. Maybe it's self Reiki, maybe it's talking to somebody and releasing that and moving on. But you get better at that turnaround time from, instead of being down and out for a month or upset or depressed or beating yourself up or on the same story of that it's keeping you in suffering. You just get better at it, you know. And I think that that's the thing. It's a good point. Like a lot of people think that, oh, so you're not fully healed from X, Y, and Z. How come you're helping others heal? That's kind of ridiculous if you really think about it. It's like, because if someone can help someone in some kind of way, they should help them. You know what I mean? Um, I don't know why this imagery is coming up, but it's like, just because someone's in a wheelchair, it doesn't mean they can't hold the door open for somebody else.
Right.
Like they can still help, right? But I always tell all of us, and me and the team included, is that we also have to keep working on ourselves. It's right. It's like we have to practice what we're preaching. And as long as we're leading by example and doing the work on ourselves and practicing everything we're telling our clients to do, right? Then that's it. That's all we have to do. No one's ever going to be at this perfect place. I remember how long it took me to heal my colon, years. And I was already doing Reiki and hypnotherapy and coaching for everyone else. And I remember feeling that feeling like, man, I'm not fully off the big pharma stuff. That's my goal. But it was a slower process to heal from all of that because it was a chronic condition I've had for over a decade. And so I think people need to be really kind to themselves on their healing journey. But yeah, I love that you brought that up. I think that's a really, really good point. What excites you about the future with this year and the people you get excited to serve? Kind of like just what excites you about the future and with your healing business?
What excites me the most is me actually evolving to eventually teach this and pay it forward, because that's probably, as of right now, my clientele, the majority of them are all empaths, and it excites me that I can share the knowledge of, like, it was me just being that medium for them. Like, you have intuition, trust that, and really empowering them to really trust their gut and start healing themselves. Like, I'm a strong believer that the best gift that you could give yourself and others is to actually heal yourself, to start that healing journey. And if you can give the next person just a little bit more of a fuller version of yourself, that's how you plant the seed in the next person. It's like smiling. Like here in Hawaii, we always say like aloha is contagious, or smiling is contagious. That's how I feel about healing. It's just showing people a glimpse that they can heal themselves by just taking initiative and action.
Yeah.
That it will go a long way. Their energy is gonna be so infectious that the next person is gonna be like, what did you do? Because you were kind of grumpy before, and now this energy turn is like so different. And that's kind of what, like, my vision is, just planting those seeds one person at a time to make the next person see that the healing is within before it's without.
Yeah. Yeah. What tips, maybe 1 to 3 tips that have gotten you through the last 2 years, you know, in a time that it can be a little chaotic, and that society can be, you know, just confused, really, you know, not grounded. What has helped you, you know, kind of stay grounded and focused on, you know, growing your beautiful business and taking care of your family and cultivating more meaningful relationships? Like, what has helped you?
What's helped me the most is my proximity and it's also probably the most hardest thing that I had to learn was
Mm,
getting rid of the people that are not serving my energy, even with jobs.
right.
A perfect example that I can give is that losing Four Seasons, you know, people think that this is a like a luxury company, right? Because that's what their brand is. But sometimes, and also just in the service industry, I don't think I'll ever go back to being in food and beverage because of how people treat servers. It's no longer just a job. Sometimes we get treated as servants, and it's because of the whole tip base, right? If people have this mindset that if I'm tipping you, you better give me good service instead of I
Right.
gave you good service first, you should just show your appreciation and match that energy. Not everybody goes in with that same mentality. And sometimes it's very degrading afterwards when you feel like you gave your 110% and it's not showing. And then you're kind of questioning your self worth. So actually, like losing my job at Four Seasons was the best thing for me, and it gave me the ability to put people. It gave me this beautiful choice to start putting people in my life intentionally and seeing what I wanted to be around and what kind of energy I wanted to grow and transpire to. Especially like you've, besides you, our heal team has been the biggest support that I've had with seeing the abundance of other people having like-minded goals
Yeah.
and really pulling out that ambition in me to strive to be better and serve my community in the best way that I can. And we're nationwide right now. I can only imagine what happens when we're international trying to do this with everybody, and just the common principle and goal is just love, and everybody possesses that. It's just finding a way to love. And that's kind of the second tip, is finding that love within you, what sparks your love. And I say this to people, whether they're in relationships or single, is
Mm-hmm.
that they have to find what love is and cultivate that, because sometimes that's the missing pieces. They just don't know what it looks like. And dating yourself is going, and really getting to know you
Yeah.
is going to reveal those baggages, reveal the things that you still need to heal, and reveal what you want to get to and what love looks like, because love looks different to everybody.
Yeah.
Um, and the last tip is it's okay to say I'm not okay and to get help and really find that support system or find that outlet, whether it is Reiki, whether it is hypnosis, whether it is just pouring yourself into better habits.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people, when we hit that downward spiral of like hitting rock bottom, some people don't have that mentality to not veer away to like drugs and alcohol and just sitting in that victim mindset of like it's happening to me instead of for me, because it's really teaching you life lessons that you have to just push through.
Yeah.
um yeah, that's pretty much.
I think community is so big right now, and it feels like the world is so when you really look outside and see what's going on, it feels so divided and so separated, and there's so much fear. Like you were just tell me what you were just saying about what's I know you're back home in Hawaii, I'm here in California, but what were you just saying that you saw on the roadway as you were driving? And then just kind of like what that puts into someone's mind as they're driving, or it's making them think about it, you know.
So we don't have billboards, but we do have kind of like an announcement electrical board that's by the
Those
signs of,
flashing signs.
right. Um, and it's showing the COVID cases on how much people are infected. And I get it. The it's like almost like reverse psychology, which is kind of like
Yeah.
sad. They're trying to trick you to get vaccinated and make you feel like that's the only option to make these cases go down, which, yes, can the vaccine help some people? Yes, they feel that way. And some people feel like it's just starting more healthy habits, finally taking care of yourself, finally putting yourself first. But the thing is like you just mentioned, there's that
Yeah.
division, is that if you don't get vaccinated, you're on one side, and if you are vaccinated, you're on the other side. And there's there's no unity in it of just
Yeah. Like
just
take care of
allowing.
our body, take care of our
Right,
health, take care of each other.
right,
Yeah.
right. But when I was driving, the thought that was going through my head was like, it triggered me like,
Right.
wow, if this is triggering me and fear, I wonder what it's doing to the next person that maybe isn't vaccinated and then they're now like, oh my God, I got to get vaccinated. Or if they are vaccinated and they're having this is where the resentment builds for people that are not vaccinated, right? And we shouldn't be working out of fear or hate.
Yeah.
We should be just trying to take care and ourselves and our, like I said, that's the same concept of like healing within before healing without. We got to make sure that we're good before we can judge the next person.
Yeah.
So like for me to be driving and doing a normal thing and then getting triggered by one sign,
Yeah.
I can only imagine what it's doing to somebody that doesn't have the proper tools like Reiki or sees.
Or even just like the awareness of like,
Right,
this is what's going on. Like
yes,
this is how powers that be incite fear. You
right.
know? Yeah.
But some people don't have that outlet to just release at least the thoughts without judgment. And I think that's why I truly love Reiki when I was getting it, was that I was able to release all of those things and I received zero judgment from you. It
Mhm.
was that empathy and that acknowledging, like, yes, you will feel those things if you went through those things, like
Yeah.
normalizing that trauma. It's
Yeah.
normal to have trauma.
Yeah.
It's about the only thing that we can control is actually taking action to
Yeah.
try and break the cycle.
Yeah.
And for like a person that doesn't have tools, they're going to think the only way that they control it is buying into whatever is being told to them, instead of just taking control of, like, I acknowledge that the signs there, I acknowledge that they're trying to inform me. If I don't like how that makes me feel, maybe I should start taking vitamins. Maybe I should start walking. Maybe I should develop more healthier habits and not just thinking the vaccine is the one-time fix, right? Because
And
even
my question is, like I was in the media before. So I was a journalist. So and I always tell you guys, ask better questions, get better answers. And I think when you told me about that sign, I was like, well, my question is how many, people passed away strictly because of COVID? They don't have those numbers because a lot of people who have passed away have other things that were wrong with them, and also on top of that. But doing this thing with fear, like turning up the volume just by showing case numbers, it's a trick. It's a trick they do to incite fear. And it's like, let's just talk about more case numbers. Um, so that's frustrating to hear that how many people drive past that sign every day and now are triggered and are in some kind of, their mindset is not as good as it could have been by the time they get home. Now they're in that state and then they go and take that energy out on their family or somebody or someone in their family that's not vaccinated, right? So it's like it's such a like the powers that be, like looking at all the humans in a shoebox and like shaking it up whenever they want to, and like, oh, let's see what they do to each other now, and it's so frustrating. And just being able through the work that we do to have more awareness of like, okay, I see what's happening and I'm going to empower myself by doing these other things, because it's like the whole time the last 2 years I have not seen half an hour infomercials or videos about how to do just healthy things for yourself, or qigong or tai chi, or like breath work for yourself. Like, no, there's none of those 3-minute spots on the news, because healthy people don't make hospitals money. Healthy people don't make the rich money. Not in healthcare anyway. So I'm excited for the work that you continue to do in Hawaii and abroad, because you do virtual as well as in person, and group sessions as well. So if people want to book with you, they can fill out the contact form and get in touch with you, and continue to keep just shining your light in Hawaii. Me being here, it's really hard because I do see from afar what's going on back home, and being a hypnotherapist, it frustrates the crap out of me to see just the mind games of what's going on. But people can take control and do the right thing and healthy thing for their body, which is getting the proper amount of sleep, drinking water, taking their vitamins, going for a walk, keeping their stress levels down, and keep continuing to pour love into each other and into their relationships. So thank you so much, Nikki. And I can't wait for people to get to work with you.
Thank you. Wait.